No more fucking around. It's Wild Style Radio. Wild Style Radio.
Stand up and shout.
What is up? And welcome to the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show, coming to you live from Salisbury Center Studios in Manassas, Virginia, part of the Wild Style Network, fueled by Monster Energy.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
Although
Happy summer.
It's happy summer.
Technically, yeah.
We are in summer because last time we talked, we weren't in summer, huh? We were approaching
It's been a
summer.
few weeks since we've done a show.
I know, yeah, it has been because we've been taking advantage of some of that summer fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some micro wrestling action.
There was some micro wrestling here that was all American.
Yes.
It was beastly. That was a lot of fun.
It was a great time.
I know. That was a great show.
It was a great show.
Those dudes are
It is
showmen.
sports entertainment.
Absolutely. And it's happening again
Yep. In November.
November 9th. That's a Saturday, right? Saturday, November 9th.
7th, I thought. 7th.
November 7th, Thursday.
All right, Thursday. I thought I got the look of like, shut the fuck up. You weren't supposed to say that. I thought Dad was coming in on me on that one.
Nope.
It was only a date correction. I feel much better about that. much, much better. Hey, happy 4th of July to you guys, John and Lou.
Right back at you.
Right back at you.
All right.
So we got a few things to talk about today.
Yeah.
Which way do you want to start?
You want to go like, because we've been watching a lot of TV.
We have been.
Which is
yeah.
not very unsummer-like. But there's a lot of stuff coming out, I feel.
Well, and the air
the
conditioning's
timing.
on inside.
That is true, too. So I feel like it's been an impromptu thing, these rock docs.
Yeah, there's some good fun rock documentaries have been coming out.
Yeah, we're not planning on having conversation about rock docs, but then this is what happens with Kevin and I. Like a rock doc is released, and then you shoot me a text, and you're like, you got to watch this. And then I say back to you, oh, yeah, you got to watch this. And then boom, now we're 2 to 3 documentaries into it, and there's something always new to talk about.
For sure.
Yeah, so let's go down the rock doc road.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Which one you want to start with?
Let's do the Napster one.
You want to go? Yeah. So how music got free.
Correct.
And
yes.
they use that specific word "got." So it's not how music became free, how music is free, how music got free.
And it's on Paramount Plus. If you want to go
Paramount
check
Plus.
it out if you
Yes.
haven't already.
Yeah. Been out a little while. That wasn't necessarily fresh. It's been out for several months, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I stumbled onto it because I was recommending I Wanna Rock to a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
Who hadn't heard about it. And
Another great rock doc.
Yes.
So if you're looking for another summer, you want to beat the heat, want to watch a rock doc, I
yeah.
Want to Rock is a
So
great
we
one.
talked about that one a little while back. And he's like, hey, it's not on Paramount Plus anymore. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's by MTV Studios. So
Right.
I went to look for it, and it wasn't on
Yeah.
Paramount Plus anymore. But then I found how music got free.
Yeah, so like that those streaming shows bounce around a lot. So this could be dated by the time our conversation is published and out there.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. I flipped it on, and yeah, it was really good.
Yes. So it's basically something that we lived through.
Yep.
And I think that we talk about music, and we've talked about that, I feel like, with musicians that we've interviewed, how they feel about releasing music. And especially if we talk to older musicians like a Jimmy Haha.
Yep.
We had a lot of good conversation with him about that. You know, how is it different now versus when when you were releasing music 20, 30 years ago? And it's a very different experience, and that documentary is really good at highlighting the change. And then, of course, the controversy that surrounded the change.
Sure. Well, and I thought it took an interesting spin where, in the documentary, it breaks down how these groups were starting to pirate music and leaking stuff before it was coming out.
Yeah.
The access to that, which was all
that
very
happened.
fascinating.
How was it leaked?
Yeah.
Basically that's what they were exploring. Like, how did these recordings get out before they were ever pressed and mass produced and given to the public?
Right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I thought was I'll call it spin that was at the end of the documentary where they were talking about, and they caught some of these folks, and I think,
They're basically the CD factory workers were the main culprits. They figured it was the sound engineers, John, but it wasn't sound engineers like John.
Never us, man. It's always the low pay people.
It was, and that was the low pay folk were kind of like, everybody else is getting wicked rich off of this. Why am I not getting wicked rich?
But at the end, when they kind of called these guys, they're like, they're not pirates, they're pioneers, because they changed how music is being distributed.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because they kind of glossed over, and there's been plenty of articles, and I think we've talked about it as well, where the musicians are saying, we just want to be compensated
Sure.
for our art.
Yeah.
And to this day, there are people still saying, we're kind of getting
Hosed.
bent over the barrel,
Yeah.
because we're not making any money off of our art.
Jimmy
So-
Haha, another great example, right? He's releasing all of his new music in Bandcamp so he can
Right.
get paid for it.
Exactly.
Specifically, he has a paid
which
service.
which I guess they kind of said, well, the artists have more creative control over that, but the streaming fees or the residuals that they're supposed to be getting paid
Yeah.
are minimal compared to the amount of people that can now access the music. So
Yeah.
there's still that issue, and I know that was a crux of the big writer strike last summer.
Yeah.
It was how they weren't being compensated for streaming, their royalties.
Sure. It hit home for me, like that's the part that struck you. The part that struck me was towards the end, also the people that were distributing the internet folk that were, grabbing these leaked, copies of music and albums and songs and putting them out to be shared on Napster, LimeWire, Kazaa, like all of the old services before there were like major streaming platforms that we now subscribe to. And most people pay music, under that, kind of format. But I was one of those that and they mentioned this, like they all spoke like, we weren't necessarily thinking about stealing the music outright. We were buying a lot of the music anyway, and this was just another way to share it with each other. And that was me. So
Sure.
like I have to say, like, I'm guilty of this to some degree of sharing that music because I have a Napster lawsuit, and I'm very proud of my Napster Metallica. I've been sued by Creeping Death Records. I'm one of those people, one of the 700,000 people that are out there. I have it hanging on my wall, when I received that email. And I think I don't know what specific songs that I downloaded, but I know that I had every Metallica album that I was downloading the songs for several times over. I didn't have the cassette version. I had the cassette and the CD version of those albums. But it took extra work, and I think people forget that. Like, I can say for myself personally, especially back then, I was really big into running. I had an MP3 player, and that was when you had a dedicated MP3 player. It wasn't a part of your phone or your watch.
Right.
Like it was individualized, and it was, the storage was given in megabytes, not in gigabytes. And you could look at it and say, like, I fit a whole album of music onto this one gizmo. Like, I got a complete album without like having a Discman or a Walkman or something you had to insert the cartridge into, to actually play the music. So then you had to have extra software on your computer to pull the songs, or
Right, to
extract
rip
the
it.
songs, exactly, which was ripping.
Yep.
And that was a lot of work. And then like when you ripped it, it wouldn't necessarily automatically identify the song the correct way or the artist the correct way. So you're tagging all of your music. So it's time and money. It took a substantial amount of time and money to extract the music that I already owned.
Right.
And I think that was probably true for a lot of people at those times. And I think that documentary identified that they went after the wrong people. They went after the people that actually loved that stuff the most. I will say that I've spent a lot of money on Metallica over the years, a lot, not just exactly the shirts, lots of types
Yeah.
of apparel, not just the
Merch,
shirts, exactly.
music.
The shows, so it was really kind of crazy. I thought that was crazy. When I was like, really?
Yeah.
Really? I'm going to get, I was one of those people, I'm going to get sued for this? 'Cause-
Well, it was, I thought to a certain extent they kind of glossed over the Napster piece. Like,
Yeah.
you see it a few times. They didn't really talk about
the tool.
the tool
Yeah.
and the amount of people, although they did refer to the lawsuits that were sent out,
Right.
to people that were using these file sharing applications. And I don't know if that was part of the deal
Right.
in terms of doing this documentary, that they weren't going to really focus on Napster and
Right.
some of these other sites, but they did say that, going after the fans and trying to sue them
Right.
for sharing these files was the wrong thing to do, because they quoted and they said, we even knew that the majority of the people that are doing this,
Right.
not only bought the music,
Right.
Like you said, you bought it.
I bought it multiple times.
Yeah.
The same album
So
multiple times.
It's, so it kind of got a little gray there. I thought, they kind of briefly touched on that. And then they touched on the big thing, which obviously was stealing the music as it was being pressed before it was released and sold. And that was interesting, talking about the different ways that these folks were, stealing the music and getting them out and then getting it out of the facility. Because I guess there was some kind of security that checked to make sure you weren't walking out with CDs. But
I was never I felt like a big share of the music that I downloaded. In fact, there were times in that way, it was almost like the old listening booth was my approach also. I have to confess to this. So if there were times when an album was released, I would download it before I bought it, deciding whether or not I was going to buy it. And then if I didn't like it, because I didn't want to chew up space and storage space in my computer, because that was limited back in the day also, I canned it. I deleted it.
Right.
And then I decided not to buy the album. Or the opposite. I would I got to buy that album because you couldn't trust the download quality either. Sometimes you would just get crappy, quality downloads on it. And I'm like, I want a good copy of that because I'm liking it. I'm liking that album and I want it. And I want it in a good way.
And you had to get the rip settings right. So
Exactly. John, I saw you were loaded out there. You were giving us a look.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, there were certain artists that my parents either wouldn't let me buy or I wasn't exposed. And Napster really opened the door for me to get exposed to a whole plethora of music that wasn't in my dad's, vinyl album or vinyl collection.
You're in John's wheelhouse now, sitting in the basement nerding out.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
It was. I still don't think that this exists like it did 20 years ago when those sharing services were as prominent as they were. There's some out there, but they're still more underground because most people, they'll stream their music legally. But I love the extra cuts or the deep tracks that people would share, or live music, almost like in a Grateful Dead, how that community shares so many live performances. And I still have some stuff that's great. I guess it's bootlegged from live shows or acoustic shows, renditions of songs that you couldn't get anywhere else.
Well, even, I'm not a huge fan of remasters, but that's the cool stuff that is showing up on a lot of the remasters. Like some of the stuff Metallica's recently put out has a ton of live.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I think most Metallica fans know they record every show.
Right.
And that goes up on their website.
Right.
So they're able to pull bits and pieces out and throw these things into the remasters and whatnot.
Yeah, I remember specifically I'm going to Stone Temple Pilots on 120 minutes and them doing Dancing Days on 120 minutes.
Right.
Great download. We saw it on TV. You would see it on TV and love it. And then that used to be it back in the day. You're like, damn, I just saw that, but I'll never hear it again.
Right.
I really wish I could. And then you had the ability to do it, and that was amazing. So it had its pluses, I guess, and I think that documentary addressed that for people on our end. That it really was developed by music lovers for music lovers. And I don't think that it was necessarily ever meant to circumvent artists, especially that we all loved.
Sure. No, not from my perspective, but clearly some of that was being done.
Yeah, of course. You have people that abused it. And it was probably going to evolve in a really nasty way. So I think ultimately it was great that the music industry adjusted. And, unfortunately it hasn't adjusted fully because we're still talking about artists, especially us. We talk about artists that aren't necessarily, the top of the top, although we're about to talk about Taylor Swift, but not necessarily, at that level that are struggling to make it. A lot of them come through here, and it would be nice to see them being reimbursed for the recordings.
You think streaming happens later if Napster didn't take place?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was really, I think, the pioneer version, at the end of this, not pirates, but pioneers, because it really pushed it in a direction that it should have been going well before, any of that pirating took place.
It still took forever to get to even that point, though. But the other thing I'll bring up, kind of diverting off, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe streaming, I guess eventually it would have, because all the technology is headed towards streaming at this point.
Yeah.
The other thing that was cool is they had the clips from the copyright infringement hearings from C-SPAN that had Chuck D and LL on.
Yeah.
I did those hearings.
Oh, very
when
cool.
I worked for C-SPAN.
Nice.
I was trying to see.
That was your camera work.
Yeah, I'm like, was I working the back camera that night, or was I doing sound? Or
Awesome.
But yeah, I was like, holy cow, I remember that. So that was cool.
It's an easy documentary to watch. It's only 2 episodes, 2 one-hour episodes, so it's just a couple hours.
Yep.
So
How,
it's not
how
one-
music got free on Paramount Plus.
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right. Second one.
And then the next thing, which you texted me about, which I'm very surprised of all people, I would have figured it would have gone the opposite direction, was the Nickelback documentary that was just released on Netflix.
So let me come clean to a certain extent
Hate
on
to
this.
Love, Nickelback.
Yes, Hate to Love Nickelback.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix, and I don't hate Nickelback.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan, but I've liked to twist and pluck Scott because
Yes.
he likes Nickelback.
It's a Scott shot.
So it's easy to kind of
I like that. We
pick
get-
that runny nose.
Scott has like some alliteration there, the Scott
Yeah.
shot. I mean, too bad we can't fire at him. Actually, he would probably be firing at us because
Right.
we're about to talk I think, about this documentary.
So, I had Silver Side Up and The Long Road.
Okay.
And so I bought those CDs when
Okay.
they came out.
Yeah.
So they have some good stuff. I enjoy it. I've
I'm
never
shocked
seen
to
them
hear that.
live. But yeah, they're certainly not a go-to to me.
I just
But-
learned something about
Yeah.
you. I
So-
never would have guessed. Yeah.
So a number of our friends started posting on Facebook about this documentary, and I was flipping by one night, didn't have anything, hockey season's over, so there was nothing to watch.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, let me check this out. And I thought it was really good. I mean,
It was a really good documentary.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly better than I guess. Maybe your expectations are low because you're thinking that of all the shots that are fired at
Right.
Nickelback and all these guys are going to do is try to defend themselves from the shots that they've taken. They address it, but it's really not the main focus of the documentary.
yeah, no, it was great. It was just kind of beginning to end, history of the band, talked about their ups and downs and how they made it, which I thought was the best part.
Yeah.
They were very,
Gritty.
gritty. It
Yeah,
harkens
gritty
back
road.
to,
Yeah.
Sunset Strip, plastering flyers.
Yep.
They were doing all of that. They, produced their first 2 albums and were
Right.
marketing it and throwing it out as much as they could. And, and then I love the part about Roadrunner Records because
Yeah.
when that album came out and I'm like, Roadrunner, I'm like,
Yeah.
how did Roadrunner sign these
Nickelback,
guys?
right? Yeah. Which
So-
and you saw the executives from Roadrunner even saying the same thing.
Right. But, and then it blew up, and,
Yeah.
so I thought it was a good point that the CEO was saying. It's like, because we signed Nickelback, we were allowed to keep doing metal
All these
music.
metal, all these metal acts. Yeah. They were very honest. Nickelback just makes the music they make, and it's very genuine. You see it from a genuine place. So
Yeah.
I think the attacks on them, they have a overproduced corporate sound, but that it's almost. I think it's unintentionally intentional. I guess if that's a way to describe it, because that's just the music that they write. They were never pushed in that direction. It's just the direction of what Chad Krieger basically produces.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because roughly around the same time frame as when Nickelback was coming out and we're kind of getting dinged for their corporate sound is at the same time when Metallica
Yeah.
released Load and Reload.
Yes.
And, everyone's like, oh, they cut their hair and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sounds corporate. And so the exact same stuff Nickelback was being accused of doing. And some of that was thrown on Metallica, but
I think it's
not to the same extent.
And they brought up the timing of the emergence of social media and how it is just to kind of like piggyback onto a concept or thought, and then have people really kind of run with that and have it go viral.
Right.
Like, so that was really one of the first times that happens where Nickelback's getting dogged. But so I don't know if this would have happened 10 years earlier. To me, I don't know if this is true for you, but if you go 10 years before Nickelback, really kind of their emergence, they remind me of Collective Soul. Remember Collective Soul?
Yeah.
They really kind of did the same thing. It was like a grunge offshoot, but it was more commercial than, say, a Soundgarden or even a Pearl Jam, which is really, to me, they have kind of a commercial sound,
Yeah.
a radio-friendly sound. But Collective Soul didn't take the heat that Nickelback took.
Right.
And in fact, to me, I feel like a lot of our alt-rock friends accepted Collective Soul to some level. And like you're saying, we never seen them live, or
Right.
that was like kind of one of the bands that I feel like people that would own maybe a few CDs, listen to them on the radio, but then probably not go to their show. And Nickelback to me falls in that same category, maybe for the same people, but later on, 10 years later, they decide to attack them, and that was, I guess, maybe through viral social media. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. But like that, to me, their feel, of their type of music feels the same. And I love Collective Soul also. I think that they're a great band and they write strong songs also. They just happen to be radio friendly songs.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, if it's good rock, good music, I'm generally going to listen to it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's Nickelback.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm always mixed. I said that to Scott. There's Nickelback songs that I don't like, and there's Nickelback songs that I like a lot and will listen to repeatedly. But I think that's probably true of any band, right? Like we talked about recently, there's a Motley Crue song out that we really don't like, and as much as we love Motley Crue. So another example. So it was worth it. That was another short documentary, an hour and a half. I think it really told a good story and really showed the band as people. And you saw really
absolutely
everything, and it wasn't them just simply defending their reputation. That was just a little bit of the conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So good way to pass a couple hours. And again, it's Love to Hate Nickelback, and it's on Netflix right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So check it out.
All right. 2 things to watch, and if you and your sunburnedness, if you need to lotion up.
John's too young. I told him he needed the Spicoli drop. Those guys are fags.
Never saw Fast Times at Ridgemont High, John? Oh, damn, you were missing a great movie.
No.
I mean, that is a movie upon movies. That is one of
the best.
Coming of age movies. I can't get enough.
That and the other one I'm going to say.
Dazed and Confused?
Of course.
Yeah. That's my gold standard.
How many times did we pass out while watching that?
Maybe how many times have we seen it while we were passed out?
Oh, hundreds.
It would loop over again and again and again.
Yeah.
I snuck in to see Fast Times in the movie theater.
Did you really?
It might have actually been in this theater.
You were a young pup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 8th grade.
Yeah, good for you. That's impressive.
Older stepbrothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So I got I'm 17. They're like, right.
Yeah.
So cool.
All right. Well, speaking of, we haven't really approached this topic, but speaking of, I think maybe we have a commercial theme going on here for the 4th of July and commercialism and rock and roll. It really just came up probably a week to 10 days ago, where there was an exchange between Dave Grohl and Taylor Swift. So I know that A Tribe Called Jess, they talk about Taylor Swift constantly, don't they? And she's a fan, isn't she?
Yeah.
You guys had a Taylor
Swift
Swift
watch
sing-along?
this segment.
You guys had a Taylor Swift sing-along here at the Salisbury Center, right?
We did.
Yeah? Did you guys sing?
No. No, I'm sure they'll never hear this, but I told John to look downstairs on the cameras, and it wasn't Tribe Called Jess, it was a herd called Jess.
That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I know now why there was an earthquake registered during her concert. And I'm not joking because I'm big.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, on that note, we can't avoid, I guess, this topic because it hit the news, and it's something that I feel like it really kind of lend into some other Taylor Swift exchanges. For some folk, I think most of our folk they go into probably heavy metal, hardcore. They're obviously not going to address or talk about Taylor Swift in any kind of way. Punk, and they're just going to leave her alone. But kind of more of the hard rock and more popular acts, may kind of interact with her, and that's maybe where this news has gone. So it gives us the opportunity to talk about that and acknowledge, the tour of force that she obviously is. So ultimately, this starts with Dave Grohl and Taylor. For us, the story starts with us in this conversation and their recent exchange on June 24th, which was, like I said, a week to 10 days ago. And there was, I guess, both Taylor and Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters were both in England, and I guess exchanging banter about each other's shows. And I guess Dave was acknowledging that Taylor Swift was performing the night after.
Well, she did. It was 7 straight days I forget which stadium, which soccer stadium.
It was Wembley, wasn't it?
Yeah, Wembley. That's right. And then Foo Fighters during that stretch of time were
love
also
Wembley.
there.
They love Wembley. Foo Fighters have a long history with Wembley.
So they were playing at the same time. So it was dueling shows. Mm-hmm. And, obviously it's the Eras Tour.
Yes, he was acknowledging that Taylor was there and then, kind of openly said, I don't want to suffer the wrath of Taylor Swift. But, there was a but.
Right.
Yeah, there was a few, errors in the Eras Tour, and he called it the Errors Tour. And obviously, anything.
We referred to their tour as the Errors.
With the R on the end.
Right.
Not eras.
Because they make mistakes because they're actually playing their instruments.
Right.
I think the paraphrase.
Yes. Well, that's it. So I have the quote because I was a good boy and have my notes, the Dave quote. He called it the Errors Tour because he says, because we actually play live. And then there's probably audience reaction. What? Just saying you guys like live rock and roll, right? Well, if you do, you came to the right fucking place. Which is another kind of conversation that we've been having a lot, I feel, over this past 6 months, is backing tracks, electronics, and the value of live rock and roll. Which, how can Dave Grohl not do something like that and call out any type of backing track? Because he's born of punk rock and live music performance. For sure. Yes. I don't know. You have anything to add?
I'm 100% with what he had to say.
Sure. I personally don't see this as a heavy dig towards Taylor Swift.
Well, and I'm far from really know much about her music or
exactly, or her live performances.
Yeah.
We can't speak to that. We've never been.
Although, obviously she came from a live performance background, but she's become such a huge pop star.
Right.
That the show that she's putting on,
yes,
I can't imagine that it is 100% live.
Sure.
So my guess is there's probably a majority that is backing tracks with some live built in, much like some of the bands we've talked about recently that, due to age, what have you, they're not 100% live either.
Exactly.
So I just can't see the way that has to get around on that stage and the dancing and the choreography and all of the other stuff that's going on, much like a lot of these pop artists,
Yeah.
I think the last true live performance at the Super Bowl was Prince.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Most everything since then
Yeah.
is half live.
Yeah, exactly. And John, we're on the next slide, I think, maybe. I think I have Dave and Taylor. We just have Taylor up in an Iron Maiden logo with, there we go. Well, and that's Courtney. Maybe I didn't have Dave and Taylor. I'm sorry about
Dave
that.
and Taylor was on the live feed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that.
Just this one here.
I'm looking at the wrong thing. Well, Taylor responded. Her quote is, my band, the next night in her performance, my band who's going to be playing live for you for 3.5 hours tonight, they deserve this so much. And so does every one of my fellow performers. And you gave that to us so generously, we will never forget it. So she didn't call out Dave directly. I feel like this is a minor exchange. I just think it's not even like a dig specifically on Taylor Swift, and some of media has put it out that way. I think it was just a basically call out of a rock performance. I think you put it very well, versus a very expansive pop performance. And that's just what you get in those shows. Right. And there's no way you can get around it. There's too much dancing. There's too much production. I don't know how you could do all of that live and have it all come together. Right. Be like an orchestra. An orchestra can do it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at least it made me dig a little bit and made me wonder, and specifically in the category of hard rock and heavy metal, has there been really kind of a nastier reaction to Taylor Swift that's out there? So that's a little bit more of the quotes that I have.
Well, the next one was.
Yeah. So, and if you want to go down that road, and this happened in April of this year, so of 24, and Courtney Love. So who is not going to be called out by Courtney Love? Who's going to
We haven't yet.
Exactly. Who's Courtney Love going to say?
We might be now.
Yeah, those guys are badass. I just don't see that coming out of her mouth. But her quote about Taylor Swift, Taylor is not important. She might be a safe space for girls, and she's probably the Madonna of now, but she's not interesting as an artist.
Bitter old woman.
So I mean, I think that, we just saw Mr. Salisbury's reaction to Taylor Swift out there. We know our reaction. We just would never listen to it. And that's not a dig on Taylor Swift. That's okay.
Yeah.
She's not a hard rock, heavy metal kind of girl. So you just acknowledge it and move on. I think a lot of people that were Taylor Swift fans would think the same about our stuff, that we love so much, including Courtney Love and Hole. So I don't know. Is she saying that, or is she really firing the shot?
Is Courtney firing the shot?
Yeah.
I think Courtney's firing the shot, but I think Courtney's looking for attention.
Yeah, always. Always.
I mean, that's her modus
And the
operandi.
people that don't like Hole have never seen Natural Born Killers in the scene with Hole playing.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot.
You gotta love that. You gotta love Hole.
I love that
after
you went there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
That was intense.
That was.
their music's great,
Yeah.
but they haven't done
For
anything
sure.
in 20 years.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, why is she even relevant at this point in time?
And so, I feel like in all of this conversation, we could bring up cross feuds because there's a big feud that's continuous between Courtney Love and Dave Grohl.
Oh, absolutely.
So then there's that. Which is a whole nother topic of conversation.
Well, I think that's got some money.
As she's
money.
there's
tied
money
to
behind
it.
that, exactly. And she's lashing out at everybody, and in every way, I don't know, that she does. So
Yeah.
I think it's probably to Taylor's credit, that's probably the nastiest thing that I found when I was doing a little bit of homework in terms of any artists
Sure.
that have really said anything derogatory towards Taylor Swift. Because I think I brought up the next quote of this year, and that's with Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. And he has a lot of praise for Taylor.
Yeah.
He had great praise for Taylor. And he's coming from a punk rock background. I wouldn't call Pearl Jam punk rock, but he will acknowledge that it was a major influence on his songwriting and what he's doing in Pearl Jam. His quote, the craziest thing was, he took his daughter to a Taylor Swift show. So I'll set that up, and forgot that I left that out before he made this quote. So he experienced Taylor, and he experienced a Taylor's live show. The craziest thing that it reminded me of punk rock crowds, of being aligned with all the misfits in our town back in the day. It was galvanizing and powerful. The run up to it, making friendship bracelets with her and the generosity of these young girls and boys, trading bracelets with different messages on them, lyrics, song titles, just acts of goodwills on these little bracelets. They found their tribe. They were agreeing on something.
Yeah, and in that article, it references Taylor Swift having a punk feel.
Yeah.
I wasn't catching the comparison there.
My question to you is, did we trade bracelets at punk rock shows?
No, we did other stuff
Right?
that we can no longer do.
Right. I mean, obviously, Taylor's got a hell of a community. I mean, she's got people sitting outside of stadiums just to listen to what's happening.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, what artist wouldn't want that? I mean, that's a hell of a community. So, right. So, in terms of additional praise, so just, not to get into the quotes, Liam Gallagher, Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, Patti Smythe, Bruce Springsteen, Jimmy Haha. I remember him posting, praise for Taylor Swift and her songwriting on his website. Stevie Nicks, Paul Stanley. Paul Stanley, of course, who doesn't appreciate, or anybody from Kiss doesn't appreciate sales in a large crowd.
Right.
That's
Oh,
what
of course,
motivates
yeah.
them, in a huge way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marketing and merchandise.
Marketing and merchandise. Exactly. And then finally, I get back to Dave Grohl because I just still don't think that there's a feud here. And maybe that's the point of all of this.
No, and I mean, and he actually, at a party a few months ago, she was there.
Yeah.
And they asked him to play. And I guess the only instrument that they had was a piano.
Correct.
And he's like, well, I don't know how to play piano.
Yes.
And he talked about how she saved him.
Yes.
Because she sat down behind the piano and started playing a Foo Fighters
It was
tune.
at Paul McCartney's house. So we went to impress Paul McCartney.
Right.
And I got the quote here. He said about Taylor, I'm sitting there waiting, because Paul wants a song from Dave on a piano. He's like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? And at the right moment, Taylor Swift stands up and goes, I'll do a song. She saved my ass. So Taylor offered to play Best of You by the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl responded on the rendition, calling it beautiful, and he got up and sang it with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he took an opportunity to try and acknowledge that they were there together.
Yeah.
And, he made a tongue-in-cheek comment. And, as most things with the Swifties, anything that is deemed derogatory will get them going in droves on social media.
That's where I was going next. And I don't think that the Swifties are immune from that. I feel that in our crowd just as much, right? Like there's this heavy metal thing of how hard are you? How badass are you? We're talking about the Nickelback thing, right? Like those guys aren't hard. They're not heavy. They're not badass. And almost like the more extreme you get into the different genres of metal that are out there, the more passionate. And I understand because people that are passionately connected to that music, as we can get, become very defensive and they don't understand why other people aren't as passionately connected. And it's kind of, in terms of bubblegum pop, for lack of better words, or commercialized pop like Taylor Swift's sound is, you have people that are just as passionate about that as they would be about grindcore, or any other type of metal that's out there.
Right.
So yeah, I think, Kevin, we're middle of the road people. I think what it boils down to. I didn't know if you were going to get all worked up and blasting Taylor Swift or yeah.
No, then I'd have to go home and see my daughter, and then I'd be in trouble.
Look, I mean, I guess it's just it. We love what we love, but other people love what they love, and we're cool with that.
Yeah, have at it.
Yeah, all we need is love.
I won't be in the T Swift parking lot.
All we need is exactly right. That's all you have to do is just not go. Just that simple.
For sure.
All right. Well, I figured we should talk about that. I don't know.
Yeah. Good conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
But let's get to July 4th. Let's get to the holiday. Let's get to some. I know sometimes, Kevin, you get asked. Sometimes I get asked. Sometimes we ask other people, "What are you listening to?" And in the spirit of playlists and how music got free, that documentary we talked about earlier, we figured that we talk about albums a lot of times, but sometimes people don't want to hear about albums. They want to hear about songs specific to a playlist. So we came up with some recommendations, 5 recommendations from me, 5 from Kevin. So that's 10 songs, if they're different. I don't know if they are because I don't know what you picked. You don't know what I picked.
Nope.
That you could add to a playlist for your 4th of July holiday. So a little bit of a critique here.
So we're going to do this in ranking order, like
You want to go 5
our
to 1?
5 favorite.
I don't have it as 5 to 1.
Okay.
If I can sort through that real
I
quick.
kind of did it. This was a much harder, when you proposed this idea, it was a much harder task than I initially thought it was going to be.
Songs are hard, man. Because there's so many great songs.
And specifically songs that have a July 4th type feel.
Yeah, I know. It's another thing too, right? Are you going to go 5 to 1 then?
Well, that's how I have it.
Okay.
But it can just be whatever.
I think I might have it.
Okay.
All right, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm doing a little flipping here. Okay. All right, I got it. I think I got it. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. I got a honorable mention because I'm not always afraid somebody's going to be like, I want another one. It's like the encore. I got an encore. All right, you going 5? You go first.
All right. So
You're flashing your iPad?
I am.
You're so digital. I'm such a dork.
This is probably going to surprise you.
Yeah.
Because it's certainly not straight out of one of my playlists. But when it comes to
you surprised me about Nickelback
rockin'
already.
America
Are you
tunes,
about to pull out a Nickelback song?
no, it's Neil Young, man.
You
Keep
are
on rocking
right.
in the free world.
Dude, that's a slick tune.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand it, but you're right. That is not you, because I know you. That is not as thrash
Nope.
as what I would expect from you, but that is a badass song. You don't have to sell me on that one.
All right.
All right. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to surprise you or not, but yeah, so maybe that's Keep on Rocking in the Free World. It's kind of like a peace and love global kind of feel to it, not necessarily like a U.S. patriotic, kind of, full on land based that way. So I was going to ask you, did you go for like U.S. patriotic songs, or did you go for
to
more?
a certain extent? But yeah, freedom. July 4th is obviously our Declaration of Independence.
Right.
So yeah, songs that have either from. You can certainly determine it's about America,
Right.
or freedom in general.
Right. That's kind of where I was too. So so I'm going to go wickedly patriotic on this one. I think you can't get more patriotic than this dude. I feel like there's a lot of songs that you could find from him that will have patriotic themes in them. But this one, I feel like it's also a double whammy that I like about the song in terms of rock and metal. And I went with Kid Rock's American Badass.
That was on my list.
Okay, all right. So, but it didn't make the top 5?
It did not.
All right, so we didn't overlap.
Nope.
But you get Sad But True in this one because
Yes.
it's not even like a sample. I mean, he pretty much just riffs through Sad But True by Metallica.
The chorus.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, in Kid Rock, I mean, in terms of like the conservative, hard driving approach to loving your country, there's not a dude that's going to do that more and give it to you more. So like this is a very straight up the gut, grinding rock
Raw.
anthem. Exactly. For being, and of course, he's Kid Rock. He's being mostly braggadocious about himself, but also about the good old USA also.
I don't know anyone else who can kill Bud Light and then raise a ship afterwards in Kid Rock.
Exactly.
But still sell it in his bar in Nashville.
Right. Absolutely. All right. You want me to keep going? And we can just kind of like,
Okay. Either way.
do a little flippy flop back and
All right.
forth. Okay. So kind of going opposite from that direction. I went with Green Day's American Idiot.
Okay.
All right. So like, first of all, I think it's a slick, just pop punk song. I think it's just, I got a great, like, riff
it
and
emo?
groove to it. It is not emo. I would just go with more of the pop punk, as opposed to that. But obviously, I think like it's, in terms of its theme, it was calling out, really some different approaches towards the Persian Gulf War that was going on at the time, or different ideas
Right.
towards it. But ultimately, I do think there's a positivity to this song about just doing things better. And so you may not want to get that serious on your 4th of July. And I think that you could probably listen to American Badass by Kid Rock and not necessarily be consumed by the politics of it. And I thought about that a lot because it's very easy to get political in
Sure.
these types of songs. And some people just don't want that on the 4th of July. They just want to have fun. And this can be that. This can still be a fun song.
Yeah. So much like Indians from Anthrax.
Yeah, okay.
Very kind of American,
Yes,
but
yeah.
and I had that under consideration,
and
I was like, you know what? That's probably just a little too serious of a tone.
Yeah, I get it.
So instead I went for give me a bottle of anything and a glazed donut to go.
Oh, that's a great song. Yeah, I don't have that on my list, but Yankee Rose.
Yep.
Yeah. Raise them up and let's see who salutes.
All right. Let
Yeah.
that flag unfurl.
Dude, that is a party song. Yeah.
It is a party tomorrow.
And that is, Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan, at their finest.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah.
video is tremendous.
Yes. Great.
Pure MTV classic.
Absolutely.
When MTV showed music videos.
You want to take the next one? You want me to jump? And if we wanted to piggyback again.
Well, we'll get political.
All right.
Because next for me was Rage Against the Machine, Freedom.
Oh my God! All right, so wait a minute. We don't have to piggyback. So there's my Rage Against the Machine, Freedom. All right, so you're right. Like, there's some tone to this song
For sure.
Yeah.
As in most of their music.
Right.
But yeah.
But that's kind of it. Like I thought about that. Like this has a deep and heavy political, if anything, in Rage Against the Machine. But when we go to Rage Against, you and I went to a Rage Against the Machine show about a year ago. And I always wonder, like, how much people understand the politicism that's in the music of Rage Against the Machine as they're thrashing to Rage Against the
Certainly the younger crowd may not quite get it all.
Machine. Yeah. But if
They're also vehemently disagreeing against the machine nowadays.
yes.
They're a little
yeah.
too old. They're not as rageful as they used to be.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this song is the story of Leonard Peltier. And I've read the book, Peter Mathiassen's In the Spirit of Crazy Horse, which is fantastic. It's about the current state of the American Indian movement. You talked about Indians. I think that's a good song that I had, I was a history major. I had several history professors, that the U.S. history really is really good at really kind of understanding, at least better at understanding the plight of the dead Native American, not the live Native American.
Sure.
And there's millions of live Native Americans still around. And this is really good song that addresses the state and the status of live Native Americans and is passionate about it, because Rage Against the Machine, what are they not passionate about? So like if you really wanted to dive into that song, you could, and get into the spirit of that and how 4th of July may be celebrated by, those that have experienced that type of life, in the United States. Or, there's other people that would just not know that and just rage
Right.
and not get into the deepness of it. I think you can do that with that
Well,
song.
and there were plenty of people that raged to Rage and other bands from that era that,
Right.
were just there because they wanted to.
Exactly. And that, in getting back to those other documentaries we talked about in our last show, the Lala, that was definitely, you saw the progression of that they lost the message of the music just to rock out to the music.
All right.
All right. So, okay. My number 2, this is a deep, deep track, but this is a bitchin' party song. So it's coming from a band that was an East Coast band that never really exploded commercially, and I feel like they should have. And this is actually even off of one of their demos. So you can find this band on most streaming services, but unfortunately you can't necessarily find the demo. You might have to go back to YouTube to listen to this song. But it was such a great live band, such a fun party song. And I know that Jeff Salisbury knows the song. It's Two Skinny Jays with Barbecue. But Two Skinny Jays, when they performed Barbecue, that was a damn party, man. Like, that was just, they partied on the stage. I mean, they were two little dudes. They were skinny. They lived up to their name. Special J and Jay Guevara were the two dudes that fronted that band. It is a Beastie Boys kind of feel, but I would say that there was more instrumentation than the Beastie Boys had. They were rap rock, so to speak. I would not call them nu metal by any means,
Right.
but they had distorted guitars. And Barbecue is just, how can you not barbecue to the song Barbecue? Like, if you go and find this song, it's well worth it, well worth the dig. Or any Two Skinny J song. I wish that they would tour again, just to do like a nostalgia tour. They haven't done so in at least 10 years. But yeah, a little BBQ on your BBQ.
Nice.
So I got away from the seriousness of the last song and, totally went frivolous with that one.
All right. My number 2, I had to go thrash or thrash light,
Of course you did.
and it's Metallica. Don't tread on me.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Nice. I was wondering where you would go when I saw the Black Album.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going to go with that. Obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons.
That's almost like American Badass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's going to bring a lot of up the gut thrash rock into your BBQ.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you want to reveal your number 1? You want me to reveal my number 1?
No, I'll do it.
I can't believe we had overlap. I thought in all of this, it was like there were too many songs for us to pick one.
Yep.
And then when you picked Rage, I was like, oh, you might go with Killing in the Name of.
Nope. Well, this one is a classic.
All
And still rocking America. I mean, that's rocking party time.
Yes.
Night Ranger.
Still touring.
We saw them do this. They closed the show on July 4th.
Yes.
3 years ago.
That was amazing. So
It
we
was
were
awesome.
coming out of COVID, and then you and I, Kevin, they pushed back the M3 Rock Festival from
Yep.
that spring into the summer into July 4th. And that was a great 4th of July moment.
Yep. It was awesome.
Seeing Night Ranger perform Rock in America.
Yep.
You can still, in parentheses.
Right.
Hopefully we never lost the ability to do it.
Not yet.
40 years later, we say we could still rock in America. It's a party song, though. That was my honorable mention. So that's what I had. So I was there. And it was my honorable mention because I had a feeling that you might choose it. So that's why I kind of pushed it.
Got it.
Yeah. But my number 1, this is my sexy 4th of July song. So for you ladies, American Woman with Lenny Kravitz.
Oh,
You know, that's a party song. And, who doesn't get into the spirit of just the boogie when you hear, I feel like this song can apply to so many situations, even outside of the 4th of July. I saw Jeff Salisbury was locked and loaded on that one. I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, American song by a Canadian band.
Yes, I was about to say that. So I was about to go back. It's not even like a Lenny Kravitz tune. It is the Guess Who,
Right.
that originally put this out. So as I'm saying, there's so many layers to American Woman and so many situations I feel like I can throw this song into. So how can you not put it out on the 4th of July? That's going to get your BBQ up and rolling. Yeah. Cool. All right. Do we leave anything out? Do you two know any songs that you're like, holy shit, I can't believe you left that out? Oh, like I figured.
Yes. John had a good one.
Oh.
Born in the USA.
Yes. Yeah. That
A little
was
obvious, but
That was
on my
easy.
list.
Easy.
On my list, right. Yeah.
I was impressed. Both your top 5 wasn't probably in. Like if I looked up Spotify, they're probably top 4th of July songs.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like your list was a nice change up from the traditional.
I was intentional. We
4th
were.
of July, that was
I was
really good.
As I said, and I even went super deep track on the Jays. Like if you've never listened to Two Skinny Jays, anybody out there, you need to. And it's too bad you can't see. Anybody's judged to me by their live performance. That's the first and foremost thing any band needs to have. And holy shit, did they have an amazing live performance back in the day. So that I will say, like, in terms of streaming services, how music got free. That's why I'm a YouTube music guy, and I'm probably one of the few people that are out there because I can upload my demos, like Sing Earth Boy Sing from Two Skinny Jays, and then it's a part of my streaming platform.
What about CCR? Song that's played on every like Vietnam movie. I can't
Fortunate
think-
Son.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
Fortunate Son. Yes.
yes.
Yep. Yep.
Hello, America.
So Hello America was on my shorter list too.
American Girl.
Because that's another one by an English band. I love it that you have, like, especially an English band on the 4th of July.
Just kicked your ass.
A couple more obvious ones.
Kid Rock all summer
no, I
long.
had
Right
it. No,
there,
not that. It was
that was a short. That's like, you mark that one. That's a short.
I brain farted because I was trying to think of the song and the singer, and it was James Brown, "Living in America."
Yep. Would
And
you
then-
put that as a rock song though? Because
Sure, on the Rocky soundtrack.
Which I saw right here when it came out.
Yes, I did too. Actually,
yeah, it's funny.
saw Dolph Lundgren get his butt kicked in this theater.
Of course.
Theater
Mr.
4,
T.
actually.
Yeah, Mr. T also. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what about
Hendrix's cover of Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
that was out there for me too.
I need a cough button.
Zach Wilde.
Yeah.
Zach Wilde did it.
Yeah, sure, yes.
What about Hasselhoff, dude? Come on. That song is great.
That's not rock.
Nickelback.
The freedom song?
Nickelback or Hasselhoff?
Gayer or cooler?
Cool. We'll go with cool.
Ooh. I'd have to go with Hasselhoff.
Wow.
Like, he's like so terrible that he's awesome.
You need to watch the Netflix documentary.
Don't think that I didn't screenshot that or take a picture of it on my TV as soon as I saw it and sent it to Scott. He's like, I'm about ready to watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Nickelback isn't that bad, but
Yeah.
dude, the Hoff is the man.
The Hoff.
They love
He's
them
been the
in
man
Germany.
for how long?
That's a bit of it. So I don't feel bad about the deep tracks anymore. That's a bit of a deep track. I mean, I know it. I know what you're saying as soon as you said it, but I would have gone there pretty quickly.
Love that song. I don't know why. They played on the Junkies all the time, I think. Might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cult of Personality. That's not. Is that? Would you consider that fourth?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I did, you know me, of course, I'm considering everything living color.
Okay.
So that was out there for me for sure. But then there's on off of an EP for them Biscuits that I damn near had listed, and that was Get to Your America. And it's a bit more of a political song, but it has a bitchin', groove and riff to it.
I'll check it out.
That was another one for me that I almost had. That was probably going to be my next honorable mention. But all right, and
That's all I got.
that's a lot. I mean, that's a big playlist. That's a couple hours right there. If you like everything that we just talked about.
Now I know what to play tomorrow.
Yeah, start with Kevin and I's recommendations though, because we're always right.
That's true.
At least
Glad we
that's
got
what
that on recording.
we keep telling ourselves that. Yeah. So enjoy your fourth.
We
Your
have some
barbecues.
upcoming shows.
That's right. I got them right here.
Yeah.
July 12th, Night Train International
Yes.
with I don't even know.
We have an interview, but we have some different members from a past interview.
That is true.
Yeah.
But Pete and assorted others are opening up that show.
Yes.
I'm blanking on the.
Don't forget the Rock for Hope on Wednesday. That's
Rock for
got Reb Beach, Eric Brittingham.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That's with Night Train, right?
Yeah.
No.
On the 12th.
No.
That's on the 10th.
That's on the 10th.
On the 10th?
Yes.
The 10th is the kind of all-star rock charity event,
Yes.
and then the 12th is Night Train. So Night Train's going to do acoustic stuff
Okay.
on the 10th.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's going to be they're going to be the band, and then like Reb and all those guys are
Yeah,
Sure.
'cause That's
going to be
Bruce's
filling
charity.
in. Yeah, it's for all the
Bruce
all the
Sisk.
proceeds go to what is it? Hope for. I forget what it is. Sorry. But anyways, it's for helping displaced people and stuff. And they're doing that Wednesday, and then Friday is Night Train.
Yes.
And then of course Saturday.
Is shot through the heart.
Yep. Always a great show.
Yep.
We had a great interview with those guys also.
Yep. And then on July 19th, Anvil with Vicious Blade,
Can't wait for that.
Pulsifer,
Be my
and Age of Ruin.
Be my first time seeing Anvil. I'm so looking forward to that show.
I'm hoping I get here.
I know Kevin's coming in hot off a plane.
I will be coming in hot that night.
You landing at 8? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're gonna be like, if you'll be hitting here right as Anvil start at best. If everything goes well.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get through customs fast enough.
Yeah.
Then August 17th, Local Palooza 3.
Yes. Yeah.
Black Flag, Age of Ruin, Knuckleheads, Cursor, some band called Days of Five,
Yes.
Ben DeMays, and much, much more.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got some good rock and roll happening this summer.
Yep. And then in beginning of August, dueling shows on August the 9th. Gavin Evick, his first headlining bill at the Tally Ho. And then Jammin' Java, Shock Mafia.
Shock Mafia, exactly.
So,
and we have First Friday, July 5th.
Yep.
So if you happen to catch
This Friday.
this Friday, with the Gavin Evick Band and Vent Hill playing down on First Friday.
Right outside Sinistrel.
Yep.
in Old Town Manassas.
Yeah.
So, cool.
All right, a lot of good rock and roll out there.
All right.
You're forgetting a big one.
Oh, wait, what? We got Days of Five.
That's true.
Yeah.
One that's almost as big. Pennywise.
Oh, well, I didn't know if that was official.
It's official now.
Look, I'm being so good today.
Yep.
Have you noticed how
You
close-lipped I've been?
It's hard sometimes. but
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know.
So-
I didn't know if that. I knew it was.
It's official. We haven't been able to put anything out yet because the band's got to approve the graphics. And as you can imagine, the guys from Monster are quite busy as well. So
Right.
getting those graphics from them and approved graphics, because I did something just hoping to be able to put something up. Like, the band's got to approve everything.
Yeah.
So we're hoping for approval to be able to officially announce it, but admission is going to be one recycled Monster can.
I love it. I love it. And I love that, like, I wasn't sure if you were going to announce that also. So I didn't know, like, the 2 layers of that, if they were going to be revealed. There you go, man. You got to Stand Up and Shout rock show first.
Yep. You got it.
and that's in
love it.
September.
September 7th. Saturday, September 7th.
Yep. And there's going to be another band that I haven't heard of, but Chris said they were really big, kind of back in the Sun Monkeys days regionally. Somebody out of Winchester. Don't know who they are, but Chris was excited to have them. Apparently they do good regionally.
Cool.
So
Excellent. Cool.
So lots of great
And it's
live
not in the
music.
calendar, of course, so I can't figure out what it is.
Absolutely.
Yep, lots of great live music. Get out and catch some. Enjoy your barbecues. And we'll see you soon.